All right, so that last one actually worked. So I'm going to get into the second video of the ketogenic diet. Again, not a doctor, not a nutritionist. This is something that works very well for me and a lot of other people that I follow or pay attention to or have worked with or whatever. Some of the reasons why I like the ketogenic diet. Number one, shopping is very, very simple. I'm a creature of habit, so I can eat the same couple of things all the time, and it does not faze me at all. If variety is your thing, don't worry about that either, because there's plenty of proteins and fats out there for you to pick from. You can get a little bit more creative than I do, for sure. I don't like to because I like to know that if I change something, what's going on. If you're trying to track several different things, food items and things of that nature, it makes it a little bit trickier. So the more simplified you keep things, especially in the beginning, the much easier it is to shift something around and do what you want to do or what you have to do. That's number one. Number two, it works ridiculously well for me. I've talked about it before, but I have zero cravings once I get pretty deep into ketosis, which is a big key. Get deep into ketosis. You can't have a couple carbs here and a couple there and think that it's going to be all right. The harder you go, the longer you go in the beginning, the better off you're going to be. Once you are very, very depleted of glycogen, nothing left. If you do have little hiccups here and there, your body will be much more able to deal with it. And actually, once, the way I follow it, once you are deep into ketosis, you are actually encouraged to have a cheat meal, not a day, a cheat meal, once a week, last meal of the day. I typically like Sunday. Every once in a while it gets changed around to a different day, but whatever. But you got to follow it super tight for a good amount of time. I like to go a good 2-3 weeks solid before I even have that first cheat meal. Let's see. Cravings, super easy to shop for. Energy levels, mental focus, fantastic. Once you are there, you will feel great. Yes, in the beginning you might be a little foggy, a little hazy, whatever. That goes away relatively quickly. Again, the tighter you stay on the diet, the more you adhere to it, the quicker you will get out of that funk, and the quicker you will be in a much more stable, much more clear state. The brain is very efficient at using ketones, fats, for fuel. So the sooner you get there, the better. Stick to it. Solid 2 weeks. Trust me, you'll feel all right. Training. Training is a whole nother ball of wax when you're on a ketogenic diet. Ideally speaking, as far as the weight training goes, you want to keep in the big, heavy, basic movements. The heavier, the better. Reverse grip, one arm tricep press downs with a couple of pounds is not going to do it. Stick to some close grip benches, some dips, things of that nature. Obviously, bench press, squat, deadlift, overhead press, blah, blah, blah. The bigger the movements, the better. You're going to activate more muscle. Always. Rep range, you want to keep your reps typically between about 6 and 10. If you start getting too much higher than that, your body is looking for energy faster than it is able to produce it through the fats. And it's going to want to use carbohydrate, which is not in your system. At that point, what's going to happen is it's going to try to start breaking down muscle tissue to convert that protein into energy. You don't want that either. You want to keep all your muscle, not burn it off for fuel to train. You're training to build muscle, I hope. So keep your reps lower, 6 to 10, somewhere in that range. Keep the weights heavy as possible. You should be struggling. And try to maintain as much muscle as possible. Typically, you're not going to do a lot of supersets or drop sets or anything like that, again, because of the energy requirement. So straight, heavy sets when you're on keto. In the beginning, you can get away with some of that crazy stuff because you're still using up whatever your body's got in reserve. But once you're a few weeks in, you're going to notice that that endurance factor is going to start to slip, and that's when you want to make sure you're sticking to mainly compound moves, heavy straight sets. As far as cardiovascular goes, some people just like it. They like to run, they like to do this. I'm not that guy. So keto's fantastic. You want to keep your heart rate around 120 or lower. I do. That's going to ensure that you're burning mostly body fat for fuel. Of course, you're always burning a combination of substances, but it's going to be primarily fats. If you start creeping up over that 120, 130, 140, again, now you're getting into such a high use of energy that the body's looking for it faster than you're able to provide it through the fats. Again, you will start breaking down muscle tissue. Bad idea. Keep your heart rate lower. Just go for a walk, whatever. The last couple of times I did the diet, all I did was walk on the treadmill at about 3 miles an hour, usually flat. Every once in a while I would get crazy and do a 3% incline. I usually went pretty long. I always like to do about an hour or so. I'm not saying you have to. It all depends how quick you're progressing and how fast you want to progress. The more the merrier. But even at that low intensity, 3 miles an hour, maybe a little bit of incline, people at first would make fun of me and be like, oh, kick it up a little bit. And then in a week or two, they're like, oh my God, you're melting away. Yeah, well, some things work. So take that for what it is, but that's what I like to do. It seems to work very, very well for me. So that kind of takes care of the exercise aspect. My actual diet is very plain, very simple. Again, that's the way I like it. You might like something different. More power to you. I like to base all my meals around a breakdown of 15 to 20 grams of fat per meal and 50 grams of protein per meal. I don't have snacks. They're all little meals. So even my shakes I consider a meal because it's the same macronutrient breakdown as everything else that I eat. Currently, my 3 standard meals are shakes, which I will typically add peanut butter to, or I will have nuts, something that gives me those grams of fats and everything, protein, enough to get 50 grams of protein. I also add a little bit of fiber to those shakes. The product I use is called Consyl, Konsyl. Works very well. I just use 1 teaspoon, level teaspoon. Don't go crazy with it. Just a little bit goes a long, long way. But I do get that in 3 times a day, so that works out fantastic. So 3 shakes a day for me. Next up, I like my beef meals. I think beef is going to help you stay a little bit fuller, a little bit longer versus like chicken or fish or something of that nature. If I want to tighten it up and maybe try and get a little leaner, that's something I could change. But right now, beef is the name of the game. I do about 6 ounces of cooked weight ground beef because it's simple for me. I like to make a lot of my stuff in advance, so I'm ready to go. To that, I add some green beans, typically from a can. Over that, I drizzle about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, and I'll either use a little sea salt or a little bit of soy sauce for some extra sodium in there. I do that twice a day. The third meal is my egg meal. Again, to stick to my 15 to 20/50 protein, I go with 4 whole eggs, which gives me 18 grams of fat, and I add to that 1 cup of egg whites. So that brings my protein right around 50 grams. So those are the 3 basic meals that I run with, and it's very simple to follow. If I need to change something, it's very easy. Like I can take out 1 whole egg and I drop my fat content. Instead of an ounce of nuts, I could have 3/4 of an ounce. So if you know what you're doing all the time, the same way, it's very easy to manipulate things if you hit a sticking point. Dave Palumbo, as I mentioned before, would rather suggest that you change your training or your cardio first before you mess with the diet. It's very easy to start taking calories out, but then you're going to run the risk of losing more muscle. You don't want to do that. So try to keep the diet pretty much in check. Make sure you're getting enough protein, make sure you're getting enough fats, and mess with the other factors first. Obviously, if you're getting on stage, you're going to have to tighten stuff up quite a bit, and things may change there. But generally speaking, you're just trying to drop some weight, look good, feel better, whatever. That's a very easy way to go. So cardio, keep easy. Weight training, heavy, straight sets. Diet, keep it simple, keep going. I do drink my gallon of water a day. I'm not huge on supplements aside from my shakes and my fiber. That's pretty much what I stick to. One thing that Dave Palumbo mentioned way back in the day that I kind of try to follow here and there, He's not huge on stimulants. And caffeine, when you're on this diet, it's going to mess with your central nervous system a little bit, release cortisol, which you don't typically really want to do. You're trying to keep that at bay. You're trying to keep insulin at bay and maintain as much muscle as possible. That's about it. If you have questions on the training, the diet, the cardio, anything of that nature, let me know below and I'll try and get back to you. That's how I do it. You may need to mix things up, change some things around a little bit. But that's it, man. Just don't eat any carbs and you'll be all right.